Welcome to the Ambidextral Gunfighter video series. This will be a 4-part series, and the 4 videos will basically be why become an ambidextral gunfighter, 2, how to become an ambidextral gunfighter, 3, what kind of equipment you need as an ambidextral gunfighter, and 4, where to get that equipment for the ambidextral gunfighter. Now, the first part you may think, well, I figure I already know the whys of becoming an ambidextral gunfighter, so I implore you not to skip this video. There's a few things that you may not think of as far as the benefits of being an ambidextral gunfighter. Now, my name is, this is Mark Laughlin with AmbGun.com, AmbGun.com, and I kind of call myself the ambidextral gunfighter. That is from my paintball years, not from any kind of combat experience or anything like that. This is strictly coming from my experience as a paintballer. Take what I have here and apply it to your own needs as a gunfighter. Now first, let's cover some of the safety things. Kind of the prime gunfighter safety directive is don't shoot yourself. And also, don't get shot. Now, worse than shooting oneself is shooting a non-aggressor and then having to live with that for the rest of your life. And so I implore you to think of that, to be willing to adopt a little bit of risk for your own personal safety so that you do not have to be the one living with a wrongful shooting. And there's this old saying, would rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Well, I would append that and say it's better to be carried by 6 than judged ill by yourself due to a wrongful shooting. Now, safety. Of course, assume every rifle is loaded and always keep your muzzle pointed in a safe direction. But keep in mind is that just because you have you have checked the chamber on your weapon and you know it's empty, does not mean you can point it at someone else and say, hey, don't worry, it's not unloaded. Don't worry, mate. It's empty. I checked the chamber. You know, you have some dumbass that's like got a rifle, he knows it's unloaded, but he points it at you. You don't have first-hand knowledge of that. Therefore, you would be justified in shooting his dumb ass. So don't be the dumbass because it's likely to get you shot. So always keep the muzzle pointed in a safe direction at a non-value or low-value target. So safety when gunfighting. It kind of sounds weird. You're gunfighting and you want to be safe. And what is the first rule of gunfighting? This is something we learned in paintball. The first rule of gunfighting is don't get shot. It's rare that getting shot is the path to winning a gunfight. So how do we not get shot in a gunfight? Well, one is, of course, you can shoot the other guy first, but that's not always easy to do. Okay, so the way you become less likely to get shot in a gunfight is by becoming ambidextrous. And the reason is that you're able to make better use of cover. For example, we have here a guy that's shooting out the left side of cover, but he's shooting right-handed. And you can see he's exposing quite a bit of his body to potential incoming fire. Now, compare that to this other guy, or the same guy, actually it's me, shooting out the left side of cover, but he's shooting left-handed. Now notice the small footprint that he's making available to be shot at. It's just a sliver of his body that's exposed to incoming fire. Now the number of square inches exposed by the guy shooting left-handed is probably 1/10 that of the guy shooting at the left side right-handed. So he's exposing 1/10 as much body area. And that's just a guesstimate. I mean, we could look at the video and maybe do a pixel evaluation and get an exact number, but you can clearly see it's a lot less. Okay, so let's say 1/10. Now, how much does that reduce your risk of being shot in a gunfight? Well, my guess is you're probably almost 90% less likely to get shot due to the amount of exposure you're presenting to your opponent in a gunfight. And then moreover, if you notice, the guy that's shooting left-handed, or me, when you're shooting left-handed out the left side of the bunker, not only is he exposing less, but he's also exposing a very small amount of the vital organ area, basically the area that's covered by body armor. So he's only exposing just maybe part of his shoulder, his arm, and just a sliver of his face, just enough to get that left eye out from behind cover. So always keep in mind that incoming fire has the right of way. Being ambidextrous helps you stay out of its right of way. Okay, being ambidextrous is a key means to avoiding incoming fire. And one thing I figure is that I would rather, if I had to choose between being ambidextrous or having body armor, I would choose ambidextrous any day. Now why? Number one, it's always with you. It's a skill that once you develop it, it's with you all the time. You don't have to go don body armor. You're always ambidextrous once you learn how. Two, of course, it saves you a lot of weight. Having the knowledge of being ambidextrous, the skill set of being ambidextrous, means that maybe you don't have to have that, 15 to 30 pounds of extra weight in body armor. And like I mentioned, in paintball, we notice that it's rare in paintball to get hit anywhere in this vital organ area, because you're only exposing a minimal amount of just a part of your face, that's your left eye, and a little bit of your arm to make shots from cover. And then also, of course, the body armor is a big metal plate or ceramic plate. It makes you hot. It's less cooling available to your body in physical exertion or under stress. So you're going to have a higher risk of maybe heat stroke or something. Now always think of, to me it's always to think of is equipment versus training. Too many people focus on getting the equipment and very little on training. And I've seen this in my Appleseed Prep series. I've got a whole series of videos on preparing to attend a Project Appleseed Rifle Marksmanship Clinic. And you know what? There's a lot of videos in there that show you the techniques of the steady hold factors, natural point of aim, the 6 steps to firing the shot, and inches, minutes, and click. All this training and knowledge that you can gain to develop your marksmanship skills. And you know what? The video that's on equipment, that's on the rifle, has almost 3 times the view of any of the other videos. There's too much of a focus on equipment. Equipment's fine, but develop the skills as well. You can't just learn accuracy by buying it, and you can't just learn gunfighting and not getting shot by just buying body armor. You can be ambi and wear body armor if that's what you want to do. But like I said, if I had to give up body armor to be ambidextrous, I would do that. Now, of course, once you've developed your marksmanship skills, you can always buy that extra accuracy. I always figure the rifle is a small part of the general me and rifle accuracy package. And usually I can get a whole lot more improvement in marksmanship by focusing on me rather than on the rifle. Now, I've mentioned in some of the other videos that while this is primarily a focus on the martial aspects, that is gunfighting aspects, the benefits of being ambidextrous, this also has benefits for the hunter. For those in the hunting community, while you're not worried about incoming fire, because I think it's pretty rare that big game animals shoot back, you do want to maintain concealment. You don't want to be seen by your prey. Now, the other ambi advantage a lot of people don't think of is that you're typically if you're gunfighting or hunting, you're on some rugged terrain. And being ambi helps you shoot more accurately given the terrain you're having to deal with. Project Appleseed teaches the steady hold factors and the natural point of aim and the 6 steps to firing the shot and for all the different field positions. But it's taught at a flat shooting range, and you're shooting from a shooting mat often, generally. There's no debris, it's all cleared off and nice and smooth generally. And these are not likely the conditions you're going to face in a gunfight. It's, you know, if you get in a gunfight, you're not likely going to call in, hold on, wait a minute, I want to bring in a grader here. I want to smooth out the gunfighting area first before we start this gunfight. Probably not going to let you do that. So the conditions you face as a gunfighter and as a hunter are going to be more rugged. There can be rocks everywhere. I mean, I've got rocks all around me here. You'll have undulating terrain that's at angles or different slopes. You'll be shooting uphill, downhill. Lots of variation in what you're going to face out in the real world versus what you'd face at a shooting range. Those who have been trained in field positions, you know, what we teach in Appleseed, we often kind of mock the bench rest shooters and like, you're going to take a bench rest out into the field to shoot your deer? Are you going to have a bench rest available when you're gunfighting? And of course, that's, you know, we know that you're not going to have that available, or very rarely will you have that available. But we should not mock the bench rest shooters, because we often think we're mocking them, but we forget that we're practicing these different field positions on this flat shooting range with a shooting mat, and you're not going to have that out in the field. So your terrain steady hold factors and your natural point of aim get a lot more complicated out there, outside the flat one-way range. When faced with chaotic terrain, the ability to choose left or right-handed allows you to choose a shooting position that's best suited to the terrain you're faced with. Sometimes you're going to be you're on a slope, and it might be best to get the right arm down when you're shooting on a slope at this angle. But if you're on a slope this angle, you might want to be shooting left-handed because you got your support elbow better supported for given the terrain. Or if you're shooting down at an angle, you may left-handed or right angle may work better for you. Or there may be, you know, unintended cover that you don't want, rocks in the way or trees in the way between you and your target, and so that shooting left-handed works better than shooting right-handed. And this, not only does it work for gunfighting, it's also going to be beneficial for you hunters. You spend a lot of money to go out, and especially the people who come from out of state to my state in Wyoming to hunt elk. You spend a lot of money on guns and equipment and the flights to get out here. And then of course your out of state tags for elk are much more expensive than for those of us who live in state. So if you're going to spend the money to go hunting, big game hunting, how about just taking the time to develop the skills to become ambidextrous for hunters? Now we have a lot of, you know, different games and sports and types of events in the shooting community. You know, paintball is where I came from as a paintball gunfighter. And some of what I learned there, I believe applies, and that's why I'm presenting this video series, applies to the gunfighter and hunter. But there's a lot of things that don't, and we have to look at the games we're playing, these martial sports, and see what applies and what does not. One problem is that we devise tests to establish fitness for combat. Now the government is probably one of the worst for this. For example, the government created the Army qualification test for establishing, you know, marksmanship skills, and to assign, you know, if you're an expert marksman or sharpshooter or whatever. And the students have learned to game the system with techniques and gear that are not really completely suited to the real world out in the field. And that's not just the testing side of things, you know, the range, just marksmanship skills. There's a lot of other competitions that we become enamored with the stopwatch. In paintball, we learned not only the importance of being ambidextrous, but also we did learn the importance of speed. but it was a judicious use of speed. We did not just, speed was not our primary concern. We would use burst of it and then remain static to a certain extent, because we were having to take advantage of cover because our targets were shooting back. Now, there are worthwhile lessons to be gleaned from all of these different disciplines. And don't get tied up in the fact that a paintball match is 5 minutes long, because of that time limit, you have a certain amount of intensity and aggression that you would not want to use in a real gunfight where your actual life is at stake. You'd be much more cautious, much more careful, and in paintball you'll take greater risk because you have that time limit. Basically, think of that 5 minute time limit, that is a lifetime of your personal lifetime crammed into 5 minutes. Whereas in a real gunfight, you've got to think of, instead of a 5 minute time limit, let's think of an 80-year time limit. You want to live the 80 years long or longer, and so a little more caution there. Now, what we've learned in paintball is that a gunfight where you get a trip to the dead box, in a real world, that dead box is way more permanent. The advantage of the ambi use of cover is actually pretty intuitive when you just think about it. I mean, if you think back into April 19, 1775, the colonists, when they were fighting the British redcoats, and they were shooting from cover. They were making use of cover, and they were using cover against the British open field formations. And basically, becoming ambidextrous is an extension of that. It's moving that one step further where we use cover, but we're using full use of it, where we're shooting from cover right-handed and we're shooting from cover left-handed, and presenting less of us to incoming fire. The next video will show you the quick, easy path on how to become ambidextrous. It's the exact path that we use to become ambidextrous in tournament paintball. Thank you for watching the video. Please like, share, and subscribe. This is Mark Laughlin, Ambidextral Gunfighter, www.ambgun.com. That's www.alpha Mike Bravo Golf Uniform November.com.